Governor Tony Evers issued a memo, simple, legal, protective. State employees were told, consult legal counsel before engaging with ICE. It was about defending rights, ensuring due process, and complying with the Constitution. But to the federal government, it was a provocation. Now, ICE and border czar Tom Homan are pushing back hard, and federal officials are reportedly threatening arrest for those who don't fall in line. This isn't just a policy dispute. It's a constitutional firefight with handcuffs on the table. Beau French and David Clark discussed their take on the showdown between border czar Tom Homan and Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers over ICE immigration raids.
Wake-up call now. The mayors, governors, and other people, attorneys general in these states and local officials continue to engage in this. They're going to be arrested. That's a good thing. That's going to be the best deterrent, because most of these people, like a judge or a mayor, didn't get into this to get arrested.
Such a good point. But, Beau, we know after the guidance was released last month, Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers, he advised state employees not to turn over paper files to ICE without first consulting the state agency's attorney. Now, Evers says he's not afraid of the Trump administration, that he hasn't broken any laws. Do you think we're going to see the governor continue to defy the federal order?
I think what we're going to see is Democrats, these arrogant leftist Democrat mayors and governors who think that they are above the law, continue to defy the Trump administration and the laws of this nation and the Constitution. And Americans, I believe, are going to get to enjoy watching many of them arrested, perp walked, and then locked up. And I think, you know, there's an old saying, FAFO, and they're about to find out.
Can we say that on air?
Enter Tom Homan, Trump's so-called border czar. Now, Homan took the controversy up a notch by all but hinting that Evers, yes, a sitting governor, could face felony charges if his actions were deemed obstruction. Really, felony charges. Think about that. If a lawful memo advising people to know their rights draws threats from a federal official, where does that leave the rest of us? What message does that send? But here's where it gets stickier. Just days before this, Judge Hannah Dugan in Milwaukee County comes under fire, federally indicted for allegedly helping an undocumented immigrant evade ICE. Now, the facts here are contested. Her team denies wrongdoing. But what stands out is how quickly the situation turned into a political flashpoint. Federal charges against a judge for actions within her courtroom, that's heavy, very heavy stuff. And honestly, this highlights a much broader issue. The judicial system, the very mechanism meant to provide balance, suddenly feels like it's trapped under a magnifying glass. We know prosecutorial discretion exists, right? So we must ask, was this about justice? Or was it about sending a chilling message to those who dare challenge federal authority? Now, stepping into this tangled mess of policy and power, let's talk about the backlash. Governor Evers' memo may not have called for anything revolutionary. It's just about ensuring employees have legal support, right? But the pushback has been staggering. 41 Republican lawmakers sent a letter demanding he rescind it, claiming it obstructs federal authorities. That's the narrative they're painting. Obstruction or ensuring legal protections. The lines are blurred, and intentionally so. Let's not forget this is unfolding against a backdrop of Trump's administration doubling down on sanctuary policies. His executive orders, they clearly aim to cut funding from jurisdictions that don't fall in line with federal immigration enforcement. Couple that with Homan's threats, and it looks like a strategic attempt to centralize authoritarian control under the federal government. Tell me that's not a chilling scenario. And then you've got Democratic voices like State Senator LaTonya Johnson and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez standing their ground in the face of intimidation tactics. Johnson calls this whole situation outrageous. And Ocasio-Cortez, well, she's the fighter many expect her to be. Come for me, she says to Homan. Her unapologetic rejection of these threats makes a statement, and not just about immigration policy, but about the fragility of democratic norms when threats start spilling into public discourse. Is this strategy just about enforcing immigration laws, or is it about silencing opposition? And where does this leave the actual people affected by these policies? We're not talking hypotheticals here. People's lives are on the line. Now let's shift focus from the big, sweeping policies to real people caught in the crossfire. Take Eduardo Flores Ruiz. By all accounts, he's a man trying to navigate an impossibly complex system. He found himself at the Milwaukee County Courthouse for a legal matter, only for the day to end with his arrest by ICE agents. And here's the thing, navigating the U.S. immigration system is labyrinth-like, especially when federal enforcement looms over every step. And then we turn to Judge Hannah Duggan. Her name's been dragged through headlines because she allegedly helped an undocumented immigrant leave her courtroom through a less visible exit one ICE agents couldn't intercept. Did she cross a legal line? Or was she exercising her discretion as a judge to ensure a fair process for a vulnerable person? Her legal team claims innocence. The larger conversation here, does her indictment set a precedent that discourages judicial independence? How heavy-handed does enforcement become before it starts eroding the very foundation of justice in this country? But the human cost doesn't end with these two individuals. These cases highlight the chilling impact of federal overreach on public officials who dare to prioritize their constituents' rights. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers stepping up to clarify how state employees should handle ICE interactions. Ensuring that legal counsel is involved is not a crime. Let's be clear about that. Yet he's being framed as if it were. What does this tell us about the pressures local and state leaders face in these politically charged times? And I can't help but reflect on the ethical dilemmas hanging over these stories. Judges, advocates, and public servants are walking a tightrope between doing what's legally required and what's morally right. Legal experts argue that this is a blatant power play, intimidation to suppress dissent and make an example of those willing to challenge authority. Are we watching democracy in action, or are we witnessing its erosion under a polarized authoritarian framework? Ultimately, it underscores why activism matters so much. Silence lets this trajectory go unchecked, and what's at stake here isn't just policy. It's the idea of justice, fairness, and rights in a nation built on these principles. Think about it deeply, because these are not abstract debates. They're real, tangible, personal. And that wraps up today's journey through the complex intersections of law, ethics, and human impact in immigration policy. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for tuning in and being part of this discussion. Honestly, your support means more than you know. It's what makes conversations like these possible. If you found value in what we unpacked today, maybe it struck a chord or sparked a perspective shift, do us a favor. Drop a comment, share the episode, and if you haven't already, follow us on all the socials. Let's keep these conversations alive. And hey, if there's a topic that's been itching your brain, let us know. We're here to dive into the stories and issues that matter most to you. Also, don't forget to sign up for our email newsletter. You'll get updates, exclusive insights, and a heads up on all the things we're working on. And if you're a believer in the power of independent media, let me tell you, places like The Real 4, One thrives on folks like you. If you can, consider supporting our work on Substack or Spotify, whether through free engagement or a paid subscription. Every bit counts in keeping this honest, unflinching storytelling alive. Because at the end of the day, what we do here is more than just peeling back the headlines. It's about upholding the values that matter, truth, justice, and the courage to speak boldly in an increasingly polarized world. Let's never forget that. So, until next time, remember, stay informed, stay bold, and most importantly, stay real. Take care.